Shalom, shalom, shalom. I'm going to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Yahweh be the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world calls God. Yahweh Shai be the name of his beloved Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus. It's the brother Yair Radah, the WFI Indiana camp, coming at y'all with a quick cold cut through the spirit on not looking back. It's like, on not looking back. Right? Because we living in the times where not only now, always, like always, you've seen it, you see it in the scriptures that being talked about, as well as in the times that we live in now, you see it rather often. And this is something that brothers and sisters struggle with. So Lord willing, we're going to dive into this thing on not looking back into the world. All right, because when you do that, you setting yourself up. Now, real quick, let me get this precept in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7. All right, and 31. It's the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 31, and it reads, "And they that use this world as not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passeth away." So there's nothing wrong with using the world. You got plenty of brothers and sisters that use the world in righteousness, or use the world, whether that be to better their household financially, and get it to where it can be stable in this society that we in this captivity that we in. You got brothers and sisters that may be in college, whatever the case may be. There's nothing wrong with using the world as long as you're not abusing it. All right. Even in the book of Jeremiah, the Lord told Jeremiah, who told the Israelites, roughly paraphrasing that, like, hey, build houses, work, have children. And this is why, while, they was in captivity. So there's nothing wrong with using the world as long as you're not abusing the world. Now, on this particular subject matter, when we going into not looking back, right, let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 16. You don't want to get to the point to where, at all, where you looking into the world, whether that be because you're thinking about how the feeling was when you used to be high. You're like, man, yeah, that was a good feeling. I missed it. Now you reminiscing on it, going off, right? Or you miss how when you was in college and used to go to those parties, you miss how you was fornicating, committing adultery, hating your brother, doing all wicked, abominable things that's contrary to the words of the Lord. It's contrary to the law, ultimately. You understand? Those things, those thoughts that come and pop up in your mind, you gotta purge those things out. You gotta rebuke those thoughts immediately. Because if you don't, and you let those thoughts linger, you let those thoughts hang, and when those thoughts come up, you don't rebuke those thoughts, but instead you ponder upon them more. You, like I said, you get to the point where you're reminiscing on it. Right now, you can't smoke weed, but you're reminiscing on how you used to do it, and you just meditating on it. You meditating on how you used to commit fornication in the world. Right, meditating on how you used to, I don't know, slaughter your brother, whatever the case may be. You just meditating on those wicked acts. Ultimately, looking back into the world, you don't want to do that because, like I keep saying, when you do that, what it'll do is it'll end up turning into a lust for the things that's in the world. You'll end up lusting after the party life. You'll end up lusting after the things that you did when you was in the world, ultimately. Right, and with that, it just comes death, right? Real quick, before we get Exodus chapter 16, let me get this precept in the book of James. Bear with me. It's the book of James, chapter 1, and verse 14, and it reads, Is this what I want? Con. In verse 14, and it reads, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. All right, now that lust may be sexual lust. It may be lust of hitting the scene in the world, that nightclub vibe, and doing all manner of lewdness and wickedness. All right, it may be that hate you had in your heart for your brother and sliding out and being on the block or whatever the case may be. Selling weed, that lust may be smoking weed. That lust may be fornicating, whatever the case it may be. You know, it's just you lusting after that old man. You lusting after that old lifestyle. You get to the point to where now you thinking like, man, I was better off in the world. You got people that say things like that, like they was better off before they came into the truth. Now they in the truth and they always depressed. Or now they in the truth and Salaki. Salaki. Or now they in the truth and they broke. Or they have no friends. Whatever the case may be. But here's the point. I'm gonna read 14 again down in the 15. It says, but every man is but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren. So the point that I'm making is, when you're dealing with these thoughts or looking back into the world, rebuke those things sharply and swiftly. You understand? Because if not, they'll linger and you'll begin to meditate on those different things. And you meditating on those different things, they'll end up turning into lusts. You'll end up lusting after the world and the things that the world contains that's on the left-hand side. You understand? So this is the book. Let's get some examples of that in the scriptures. All right, this is the book of Exodus chapter 16 and verse 1. And it reads, actually, we'll start at verse 2. It's the book of Exodus chapter 16 and verse 2. And it says, and the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. So they kind of talking a mess. Right? Like, man, who these? You know what this is, right? Here's the point. It says, and the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full, for ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. So you got Israelites, even back then, during the time of the wilderness, who was murmuring and looking back. Who was looking back. Same thing that Jake is doing now, Jake was doing back then during the wilderness. Looking back. Like, man, if we was gonna come out here and die, at least we should have did it in Egypt, where we had good pots and we would have been able to eat until we was full, and not had to worry about you can't drink water when you want to, can't drink the yayan when you want to, you can't eat when you want to, so on and so forth. You understand? They was doing the same things, looking back into the world. And what did the Lord do to them ultimately? Hey, the Lord killed all of them. Right? And only left 2 men, Joshua and Caleb. All right? Why? Because they didn't cleave unto the Lord like it tells you. All right, real quick, let me get that in the book of Deuteronomy. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 4. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 4. It says, but ye that did cleave unto the Lord your God are alive, every one of you, this day. So he said, hey, the ones that wasn't murmuring, the ones that did cleave unto Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right, unto the Most High God Yahweh, during that time, the ones that cleaved unto the Lord, hey, they was preserved. They was kept alive. But But the ones that murmured and the ones that looked back into the world, okay, or the ones that during this time that looked back into Egypt, guess what? Hey, they got destroyed ultimately in various different ways when you read the accounts, right, in the law. Now let's go to the book of Luke. All right, it's gonna be quick. Luke chapter 17. Yep, this is what I want. This is the book of Luke, chapter 17, and verse. I want to read this whole thing. Not the whole chapter, but this whole account. We get right to the point. It's like in Luke chapter 17 and verse. I'm gonna start at verse 27. It says, "They did eat, they did drink, they married wives and were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also, as it shall be in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank and bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day he which shall be upon the housetop, and he and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife." All right, so the Lord is telling you not to look back. The Lord is telling, even during this time, the Lord even gave an example. Like, look, hey, in that day, the man, if you, on top of the roof, don't go back in and get your stuff. Don't turn around. Don't look back. Right? Have faith in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, and keep your mind stay focused on him and keep it pushing. He even told these men, remember Lot's wife. And what happened to Lot's wife? Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 19. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 19. And I believe I want to start at verse 23. All right. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 19, and verse 24. It says, "Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground." Here's the point. Verse 26. "But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became the pillar of salt." Right? We all know the story. She looked back. Now, we don't know why she looked back, even though it was given instructions to not look back. We don't know why she looked back, though. She could have had a storehouse there still. She kind of was holding on to it. Could have been, who knows? Nobody knows. All we know is that she looked back. And there was a reason as to why she looked back. Now, no matter the reason, we can't look back. You can't look back for your pops, your moms, your friends, your brother, your sister, your cousins, old women you can't look back, man. You gotta keep your eyes focused on Yahweh Shem Yahushua, your mind focused on Yahweh Shem Yahushua in these last days, and obtaining the kingdom of heaven. By doing what? Keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability while having faith on Yahweh Shem Yahushua. So don't end up like Lot's wife. A lot of people, they tend to have those actions of Lot's wife, which is looking back into the world. But when you do that, you just gotta understand, keep your mind focused on the Lord. Let's go to the book of Matthew. I want Matthew chapter 13 and 22. It says, I'm gonna start at verse 17. I'm gonna start at Matthew 13, chapter 13, and I'm going to read 7 real quick, then we're going to jump to 22. All right, this is Matthew chapter 13 and 7. It says, and some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. Now let's jump over to verse 22. It says, it says, he also that received seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. So you don't want to be that person that you hear the word, came into the truth, but the cares of this life is so strong that it strangles you out the truth. The things of the world, the club scene, the women, the friends, the family, the pagan holidays, the family time, whatever the weed smoke, the drugs. Don't let those things choke you out the truth. Don't let those things be thorns to you. Why? Ultimately, because you're looking back into the world, desiring of those different things. It's going to come with a hefty price. Like we read in the book of James, chapter 1 and verse 14 and 15, when lust cometh and conceiveth, it bring forth death at the end of the day. All right. So now let's get Matthew chapter 8, since we already in Matthew. Let's go to the book of Matthew chapter 8 and 22. I'm going to start at 21. It says, and another of his disciples said unto him, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. But Yahushua said unto him, follow me, and let the dead bury the dead. So Yahushua, you can see what type of spirit he moved in. He like, look, hey, we doing the work. Hey, look, we in this thing. You either in or you out. It ain't halfway in, it ain't halfway out. You got 1 foot in, and then you got your legs stretched all the way out with your foot in the door. To that lead, and that door leads to the world. And you got your foot in there because you kind of peek your head through every now and then. Hey, you can't do that. You either in or you out at the end of the day. Yahushua told this man, he said, hey, look, and all the man wanted to do was go bury his father. Looking back into the world. And Yahushua told him, he said, let the dead bury the dead. Follow me. And that's what you got to do. That's the type of spirit you got to be in. You have to go, you have to be able to forsake the wicked things of the world. Forsake the things that won't profit you in the truth, ultimately. All right, forsake the loved ones, the friends, the cousins, all those different things. The folly, the madness, the fornication, the weed smoke. You have to forsake all those different things for Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Because if not, then, hey, I mean, ultimately it ain't really nothing for you. Because you chose what you esteemed higher than the Most High God and His Son. Let's go to the book of Matthew, or it's like it, Psalms, chapter 73. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 73, and verse 2. And it reads, but as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. So they say, hey, man, my feet was almost gone. I almost slipped, man. Why? It says, for I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. So you can't let the prosperity of the wicked take hold of you and have you wishing you was in their shoes and have you envying the fact that they don't have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Think about that. You have people that envy the fact that people don't know the truth and that they don't have to keep the commandments, even though they do. And they all gonna get judged at the end of the day. But just the fact that they're not keeping the commandments and that it seemed like they having fun. You understand? Those different things, like you You can't get tied up into those things, because at the end of the day, it's a judgment for it all, and they'll soon be cut down. I'll tell you that in the book real quick. Let me get that real quick. In the book of Proverbs. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 24. No, that's not what I wanted. So I can bear with me. That's not the one I wanted. I want 37. I want 37. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 37 and verse 1. It says, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. This is the point that I want. It says, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither like the green herb. So that's the lot for the ones that want to continue to, whether that be abuse the world, look back into the world, or just fully submersed in it and don't know the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the truth. The ones that don't know about this thing, hey, that's their judgment. And the ones that do know this thing, but you either go back into the world, or you and die like that, or you in the world when the Lord come back, then hey, you already know what time it is. This is serious. So you got to be willing to forsake the things of the world and not look back. If you do look back, you got to, hey, those thoughts, you got to take them and you got to rebuke them sharply and remove them swiftly. Don't get to the point to where you pondering upon if you gonna do this or do that, or you miss this, or you miss doing that, or you miss those times. You always are those times type of person, right? In wickedness, obviously. There's nothing wrong with reminiscing on certain things, but when it comes to wickedness, right, you can't have that. Now let's go to the book of 2 Timothy. Like we said, you've always had people carrying these the spirit of looking back into the world. All right, you don't want to do that. You want to be kingdom driven. You want to have your mind focused on the kingdom and Yahweh Shem Yahushua, not your mind over here thinking about this part of your mind over here thinking about that. The front of your mind is thinking about the world, and then you got the kingdom on the back of your mind. That's all. It's the book of it's like I'm on 2 Timothy. It's the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 1 and verse 15. It's the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 1 and verse 15. It says, this thou knowest, that all they which are in Asia be turned away from me, of whom are Phygellus and Hermanges. It's like it for the pronunciation, but Hermanges, right? But Paul is saying, like, look, these men have turned away from me. These men have turned themselves away. Now, when you read deeper into the account, is because they started teaching other doctrines and so on and so forth. But this is what I want. This is what I want. 2 Timothy 4, and I believe that's 2 Timothy 4 and 10. It's the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 4 and verse 10, and it reads, for Demas hath forsaken me, having loved this present world, and is departed unto Thessalonica, Crescens to Galatia, Titus unto Dalmatia. All right, so like it for the pronunciation, but point that I want in that is, Demas, right? That brother departed from Paul. Paul called him out about it. He like, hey man, Demas, he left me. He went back to Thessalonica because he loved the present world. All right, I'm going to read that one more time. It says, for Demas hath forsaken me, having loved this present world. Man. Think about that. This man left Paul doing the work because he loved the present world. Now, we don't know what specifically he loved that was going on in Thessalonica. Could have been his job. Could have been his family. He probably missed his family. Could have been whatever. All we know is that, hey, this man let the love and the cares of this world take him away from this work. Take him away from being there with his brother. Take him away from the kingdom. At least at this moment in time when Paul is writing this. You understand? So don't be like these men. There's plenty of accounts all the way from the time of Noah, from the time of the wilderness with Moses, from the time when Yahushua was on the earth, and even from the time after Yahushua. Accounts of men and women looking back into the world. And it all comes down to the same thing. They was enticed. They loved whatever that was in the world. And it don't end, well all the time. Now, sometimes in certain cases, men can repent. And that's what we got to do in these last days. If you caught or if you catch yourself looking back into the world, repent. Take those thoughts away. You understand? Take those thoughts away from your mind. You don't want to be in this captivity like the men and the women during the wilderness who was murmuring, saying basically saying, hey, it was better when we was in Egypt, man. That's off. You don't want to find yourself thinking, contemplating, or meditating on if it was better when you was in the world or not. You understand? The Lord, he has sift you out this thing. The Lord will take you out. All right, so Baba Gashad, the family, make sure you're not looking back in this thing. But instead of looking back, keeping your mind stay focused on Yahweh Shem Yahushua. All right, let's get the classic. It's the book of Psalms. It's like it, brother. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 1, and verse 1. It says, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doeth he meditate day and night. That's what you want to aspire to be. Somebody that meditates in the scriptures, in the law, you understand, day and night. You meditating on whether that be how to cut a doctrine, you meditating upon the law and how to keep it. You understand, you meditating on the kingdom and the good things that the Lord promised us. You meditating on what you'll do in this situation, Lord willing, you get the kingdom. You meditating on the beautiful things that the Lord has bestowed upon us. You may meditate upon the bad and why are people in this situation, and it may inspire you or fire you up to go harder for your people, for your nation, for your family, for yourself. All right? That's what you want to meditate on, and not meditating on the things that's in the world, and meditating on going back into the world, and meditating upon the things that are contained in the world on the left-hand side. All right, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. All right, we'll close up. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11. Salaki, verse 16. And it reads, take heed to yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. And then the Lord's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, and lest ye perish quickly from off the good land which the Lord giveth you. Therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart, meaning your mind, and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. Okay, so you want the law of the Lord, you want the scriptures, you want the good thing that the Lord has promised us, you want righteousness to be on your mind like a frontlet. Meaning what? It's always in the front of your mind. It's always on your mind. You're thinking about these different things. You're not letting the follies and the cares of this life draw you away from those different things. Now, that's not saying you can't enjoy yourself or have fun or any of those things like that. But when it comes to looking back into the world, do not let those things overtake you. Do not let those things continue to brew up and stir up. And now those thoughts are stronger and stronger to try to remove because you've never dealt with it accordingly. But instead, you let those things linger. And now that it's lingering, it's building up. Now that it's building up, it's become a lust of you looking into the world and lusting after the things that's in the world. And at that point, if it grows and continues to grow and get stronger and stronger, it's just going to bring forth death at the end of the day. All right, family. So Lord willing, Adawan, Atazar, brothers and sisters, was edified, right, with this lesson through the Spirit. Remember Lot's wife, don't look back, but continue to look forward and keep your mind, stay focused on Yahweh Shem Yahushua these last days. All right, Kwam Yasha Allah, Shalom.